Oh my goodness! Welcome back to another one of our weekly id Invaded discussion videos. Today we're talking all about File 12, Channeled, and this is definitely a wild, penultimate episode, I'm not gonna lie. But before we get into all of that, I do, as always, have to give a big thank you to those of you who shared last week's video over on Twitter. At Honda Gilbert, at Infamous519, at Bubba Lubber, at Blue Rose Enigma, at D Cherry Wolf, at AnimeFan3535, at Wizardo320, and at Pineapple Brandon. Thanks so much for sharing last week's video over on Twitter, everybody, and if you too would like to have your name shouted out in next week's id Invaded finale, I feel a little bit sad to say that, but if you would like to have your name shouted out in that finale, then be sure to share this video around on the internet, and then tag me at JoJo Talks Too Much over on Twitter, and I will be sure to shout your name out in next week's video. Okay, so I'm sure some of us are feeling a little bit emotional since we did sadly possibly see the end of our boy Fukada. This might be Fukada's farewell, and I don't want to say that because this character, we'll get there. Before we get into that though, I do think we should address John Walker's endgame. And yes, I feel like endgame is appropriate because, to quote Stephen Strange, we are most certainly in the endgame now. Things really feel like they're just falling right the hell apart, don't they? Like, everything about the Mizuhaname, everything we thought we knew, everything like the characters thought they knew has been flipped up on its head. Everything's falling into place in such a way that we knew it was gonna lead to something chaotic and something intense, but the fact that all of the Kura building is basically a gigantic Mizuhaname, I don't know if I necessarily saw that coming. I did know we were gonna get some sort of reality warping, some kind of situation like that with Kiki basically warping reality around her as her powers have been shown to do. And again, the other thing that I'm sure people will level at the show is that it might seem weird that this human character is having this reality warping effect on things, but I would hope that in a show where people dive into other people's literal id, diving into their id, they're in dealing with the ego and the superego and all that shenanigans that we talked about way back in episodes 1 and 2. I would hope that the fact that somebody can warp reality isn't that much of a stretch. To me, I'm okay, I can see that complaint, I can maybe see it, but I just disagree. I feel like everything has been following sort of a set rule of okay, so this leads to this and then this leads to this. Everything has been falling into play nicely, leading up to a really exciting and interesting climax for the show, and I'm truly digging it, especially the fact that we once again get another montage. One of the things that id Invaded doesn't get enough praise for, I think, at least among id Invaded fans, is the fact that the show has a knack of having these kind of dope little montages, musical montages. We had the that one samurai song from forever ago where Sakaido was trying to run across the buildings that were on fire. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but this week we have another kind of sort of follow-up to that with a song that I can only assume is called Butterfly, as Kiki warps the Kura building all around her. And I gotta say, that shit was dope. To quote my girl, hell yeah. I was oh, we're gonna get something great. And it most certainly was. And yeah, it's just friggin', it's wild seeing John Walker's plan fall into place. The fact that he's been there the whole time. We all knew it was gonna be, the chief. That was just sort of, again, I said this last week, the comments pretty much agreed with me. We all saw it coming, but it was still even though we saw it coming, it was still satisfying because we're yeah, we knew it. I knew it was you. And it's it's just cool to see everything fall into place. And I love the idea that Momoki thinks that he's doing something really important right now. He thinks that him and Matsuoka really feel as though yeah, we're going in to save the day. But when John Walker is going into, when he kills himself to live in the Idwell forever, untouched by Kiki and the rest of the detectives, supposedly, he says, I'll leave it all to Momoki. And Momoki says that his plan is to put Kiki back into the Mizuhaname for now. And even though his intentions are good, he really is just sort of following the plan that was set up. This really does feel like this is John Walker's endgame. and I don't know how they get out of the situation. Matsuoka does hand Momoki a gun, and I feel like given where Kiki's like story has taken her, I'd be really sad to see her go, but I feel like it's better than being locked up in the Mizuhaname, so I can see the like Uno reverse card against John Walker's endgame would be Momoki killing Kiki, which would be sad. But I can maybe see them going down that route. And yeah, this whole scene was wild. Seeing like the Mizuhaname crew like being chased after by boulders, everybody's like dying inside like these different idwells. We see like callbacks to previous idwells, all that crazy stuff. I was surprised we didn't see the train, like maybe like people like inside the spinning train just being like, like this idwell's not that bad. But yeah, it was really interesting to see all these cool callbacks to previous episodes. It was just really, really fun. And I really think that this is solid lead up to next week's conclusion, which is a little bittersweet because I've been loving Id Invaded. This is like the show that I've been championing. I really think this is one of the better shows from a kind of lax season. It is definitely one of the better shows. And I don't know, it's bittersweet. It's always weird to be like, oh, it's the finale. Because I don't know if this is going to get a second season. It really depends on how it ends and whether or not Aoki and Maijo would want to return to the show. So I don't know. We'll have to see. But now, my friends, we must take a moment of silence. If you are watching this video as it premieres, could I please get some Fs in the chat for our boy Fukada, who sadly says farewell. Possibly. I don't actually know if he's dead. Okay, so at the end of the episode, Hondomachi asks, like, do you think if we take this out, if we stop Kiki from, like, warping reality, do you think everybody will wake up? And, like, Sakaido says, like, I'm not even really sure, and we get, like, the Mizuhaname gang, when they're running from the boulders, they say, like, there's, like, a 70% chance, I think, like, because about 70% of the nurses woke up, some of them are still in a coma, so there's, like, a 70% chance that if we die, we might just wake up. You want to test that theory? Which I thought was, again, really funny. So there is the chance that Fukada could wake up. Akihito / Sakaido, although I guess he is just Akihito right now, suggests that maybe the reason they'll wake up is if they really want to live. And I do think Fukada might have found a new meaning and new purpose. I hope he'll wake up, because honestly, like, if he doesn't though, this was a pretty solid send-off given like where his character started to where he ultimately winds up. In the way we get here is basically Fukada, like he is told by them to like follow us, get in the Idwell, and he's like, no, because there's like a dead bleeding body in his chair. He's like, nah, I'm good. And they're like, no, get in the Mizuhaname. He's like, ugh. But before he can do that, he gets like knocked out by Kiki, right? So he falls asleep, and he's not a great detective. He's just him, and he's still in the Idwells with everybody else, but he's just a guy. So he ends up finding his way to Hondomachi's Idwell, and he's there just in time to catch her and save her from like just splatting into the ground, which is a big save, by the way. He even does the like, nice catch. And I was like, yeah, my boy. And I'm thinking like, okay, so the three of them, one of them not being a great detective, but the three of them are going to go and confront John Walker. That is not what happens. That is sadly not what happens, because not only does he save Hondomachi once, he saves her twice, because Inami, that bitch, shoots our boy in the back, and it broke my damn heart. But at the same time, you know that in sacrificing himself to save Hondomachi, since he's not currently in great detective mode, he could have very well have just saved Hondomachi, Sakaido, or / Akihito, all of the Kura people within that building, like the whole building, possibly the world. Who the hell knows? But I do think that Fukada, like, sacrificing himself is interesting, given that when we met him, he was, to quote Nier, nothing more than a crazy serial killer. You know what I mean? Like, that's all he was. And now, by the end, like, shot in the back by Inami, he's basically has this final conversation with Hondomachi, and it got me in the feels. Like, I was all up in my emotions, especially the last words just being 3 is a fine number. And like the fact that it's 3, right? Because he says it's twofold. He had 3 wishes granted, sure, but you know that deep down 3 is a fine number was absolutely about the fact that he found new purpose beyond this like selfish desire to drill holes into people's heads, which is still messed up, you know, hard to forgive the boy, and I'm not saying forgive him, but I'm just saying, like, as a character, you know? Like, as a character, to go from something so horrid and horrible, like, to find new purpose in these 2 other people forming this team of 3 great detectives. 3 is, in fact, a damn fine number. And I don't know, like Fukada went from being this character that I was sort of indifferent to at the beginning to possibly being my favorite character in the show. And so to see him go out is obviously kind of emotional. I was sad to see him go. I do think because he found new purpose, there's a chance he could wake up. If he does, I will cheer. Like, I will cheer on the mic, I promise you that. And I'm not gonna lie, it was super satisfying when Inami got stabbed a couple times in the back. You shoot my boy in the back, get stabbed in the back by John Walker for all I care. I did like Inami as a character, but she shot my boy and killed him, possibly. So, yeah, screw her. Glad she's dead. Sad my boy's dead. Very, very, very curious to see how things wrap up next week. Oh boy. With that said, everybody, I'm gonna say that this week's episode is like the first cup of tea that you grab before leaving the house to go to work. You know, it's the cup of tea that prepares you for everything else that's about to come. Does that make any sense? No. Are these ever supposed to make sense? No. And that's it for today's video, everybody. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, then be sure to go ahead and hit that like button and leave a comment down below, because it all pleases the almighty YouTube algorithm, which helps me out a ton. So if you choose to do so, kudos to you. And if you'd like to go that one step further to help the channel out, then go ahead and check out some of the mugs listed just under this video from our Teespring store. That is super appreciated. Or if you want to help out the channel more regularly, of course you can check out our Patreon, like these lovely people that you see before you. And speaking of our patrons, I would like to give a big shout out to those of you in the Earl Grey tier. Zevi, Andrew, Branson, Calvin, Crowbar of Irony, Daniel, Digger the Fox, Dominic, Emily, Ionos, Urza, Ginkotaku, Godzilla Fan, No For Nothing, Maria, Marshall B, Mater, Mirth Mouser, Cell, Shadow Creative, Steven, Sakochi, Tristan, and Veridin. Thanks so much to all of you in the Earl Grey tier, as well as those of you in the Orange Pico tier. And if you too would like to join our T Squadron, then be sure to check out the first link in the description to check out our Patreon page, see all the cool rewards you can get over there, as well as access to our Patreon exclusive Discord for as little as $1 a month. Once again, I want to thank you all so much for watching today's video. I hope you guys have a great day, and until next time, you stay classy, AniTube, and wash your dang hands.